Welcome to Night Shadows. I'm Stuart Best. Where the paranormal is normal. Where that which you thought you knew, you didn't. And where the future can be known, if you know exactly where to look.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for tuning in and listening to our update. And one of the most important things that has actually happened in 2017, and I'm going to list some of the things when Larry comes on, but it's that request from Chicago to bring the UN into Chicago for peacekeeping purposes. And I wanted to read from Daniel 7:7, verse 7, kind of an interesting number there, 7:7. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Now, I'm sure you've heard of the old version, Babylon, Medo, Persia, Greece, and Rome, and it's totally false. If Babylon, Medo, Persia, Greece, and Rome might possibly considered a foreshadow of what was to come, this is a last day vision. The angel of the Lord says to Daniel, this is a latter-day vision, just as the end. It's all part of Daniel's 70th week. The thing I wanted to go into here a little bit so that people understand it, this beast is diverse from all the other beasts, the nations, that were before it. Now, the word before it does not mean past. What it means is standing in front of, if you look it up. So it is the United Nations. The United Nations is a treaty organization. It is not a nation. It is not a state. It is totally diverse, never seen before. The United Nations is an organization that's communist to the core, and it gets its power through treaties that it makes with the nations, and that's how it usurps the nations. And if you read further down, it says that the nations were still there, but they gave basically their sovereignty over to the United Nations. So this is very, very important as to what is going on in Chicago, because this is going to be going on in all major cities. This is just the first step of the United Nations to really firmly get troops into the United States. Now, we've had sightings of UN military equipment all over the United States. They're getting ready, and it's going to come down rather quickly when it does. And I just wanted to read that so that people would understand how serious this thing is. And the United Nations is a very, very dangerous organization that operates under a communist charter. It's communist to the core. In fact, basically it gets its charter from Russia and the Russian charter. And it's very, very interesting how all this is starting to feed together. And I don't know if you've heard about strong cities, but the UN is deeply involved in what are known as strong cities. And I want to get into that in a future program because it's also tied directly to the United Nations, the kind of an ISIS operation here in the United States, which is why you cannot criticize Islam. You can stomp all over the Christians, and nobody says anything. But if you stomp all over Islam or Allah, you're really going to be in trouble. And we've seen this developing as time goes on. Anyway, hi, Larry. Just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Well, we're watching prophecy fulfilled in front of everybody's eyes, and they don't even realize it. I was looking at 2017, and boy, what a year this actually has been prophetically. I mean, we're watching the forerunning of Daniel chapter 8, which could break forward any time. Isaiah chapter 17, and the taking of Damascus, and Ezekiel 38:39. So we're really running full speed into this thing. What's your comment about that? I mean, this is what I see.
Yeah, I think you're very correct on that, and let me dovetail something else into it real quick because it's really relevant. In the last few days since Donald Trump, the president, has declared Jerusalem Israel's capital, basically, and said that we'll move our embassy there. Matter of fact, Skywatch TV had a post this morning that says United Nations weighs how to stop the Trump prophecies and to fulfill Zechariah's prophecy to gather all nations against Jerusalem. And if those that are not aware of it, the UN is presently involved, which began with the UN Security Council, in a move to stop Trump and his declaration that he made the other day about Jerusalem. And they're actually pivoting a major vote in the United Nations General Assembly tomorrow, Thursday, to come against Trump and anything that he would do to assist Israel or deal with moving an embassy to Jerusalem or agreeing that Jerusalem is Israel's capital. So what do you think?
I think we're moving so rapidly into Daniel's 70th week that it's going to hit everybody by surprise. And it's not going to be good when it gets here. I mean, it's just going to come down like a ton of bricks on people who really don't understand who the United States is. They refuse it. Who the United Nations is, they refuse that. And I guess, what do you do with that? Once they've refused it, you can't do anything. And, of course, if the UN Security Council, they knew that America would reject it in the Security Council. They would veto it, so it wouldn't pass. So obviously the United Nations, in their absolute hatred for Israel, has decided to take it over to the General Assembly, where then they will pass this. I don't think Trump's going to pay much attention to it, and I doubt if Israel will pay any attention to it either. But you know what? I really believe that the leaders of the world who hate Israel with such a passion, it's not only spiritual, as you know, most people probably know that, but this is going to move into the area of war. I still think we have to have a major war before they're going to work any peace agreement out. Do you see that, or do you think we have a peace agreement just through the rhetoric, and then everybody quiets down and boom, we have war? I mean, it's got to go either one way or the other.
Well, the way that a lot of the dots seem to be falling is on the side of war, and basically, of course, we have a real threat with North Korea, but at the same time, Trump and his people are really pushing Iran, and now they're moving on Hezbollah. Matter of fact, there were reports come out today which were shocking to a lot of people that the Obama administration and Barack Hussein Obama covered up for Hezbollah international crimes so that they could get their Iranian deal and take care of Iran. And matter of fact, a lot of the money, that goes into Iran supports Hezbollah, who hates Israel and is about to pound Israel with missiles, at any time. I mean, this whole scenario is set up. Now, at the same time, what's interesting is the fact that we're having a lineup of the U.S., Saudi Arabia, with some Arabian Arab countries, and Israel, or who are facing off with Iran and its allies, the Palestinians, the Syrians, a lot of terror groups, Hezbollah in Lebanon. I mean, and of course Iran and North Korea are allies. So, I would have to say it would almost, because they fired the Yemeni rebels fired another Iranian ballistic missile towards the Saudi Arabian palace grounds, and that's the second provocation of Iranian missiles striking in Saudi Arabia. So when you foul on the royal palace, you're targeting MSB, or Mohammed bin Salman, who is really pushing. He's appears to be motivating towards a war with Iran, which will involve a pretty good conflict.
Well, Salman has already said that when he ascends to become king, and of course that missile probably would have taken out both of them if they were both there, that's an act of war. And I think what we're going to watch is Yemen and Lebanon. There's going to be more and more action, and the rhetoric against Iran may trigger Iran to preempt. And they're really not known for preempting. Israel's the one that's really known for preempting everything, which is militarily, of course, a very smart move. But it makes you wonder if we're not watching the prodding of Iran to the point. It's kind of like Trump prodding North Korea to launch. And by the way, have you heard any more from North Korea other than the killing of somebody that was in charge of their nuclear site? I mean, he just kills anybody that doesn't perform as he thinks they should. Have you heard any more about that?
Yeah, not really that much. You remember one of his cousins that apparently China was trying to possibly move into a position to take over North Korea. He was assassinated, and then
yes.
Most recently, Hwang, who was the second in command in North Korea right under Kim, suddenly disappeared about a week ago and has not been seen since. And there's rumors that possibly he was killed. And then at the same time, they did give the death penalty to some guy that was over the North Korean nuclear missile system. Nobody seems to know what that was about, but they're dropping like flies over there under Kim. Only Kim seems protected in that little ring of people around him. So, possibly there was a failure with a missile or a nuke test that he was trying to do on the day of his father's death to make a big ploy, and intelligence was watching, and maybe that failed, or it didn't get done, or didn't come off right, and so he just killed the guy over it. So who knows?
Well, that's kind of what he does. If he doesn't like you, or you look wrong at him, then you're going to be in trouble, I guess. That's the way those people work. And when this happens in America, when the Antichrist rises, whoever he is, it's going to be the same way. You're either going to toe the line, and if they don't happen to like you, or you've got a dossier on yourself through this AI, artificial intelligence, gathering data, you're just on the list to be arrested and probably either tortured and killed or whatever. Government documents bearing Hillary Clinton's signature proves U.S.-Russian Federation uranium deal occurred. Now, it seems to me that Hillary said she didn't understand any of that, and she had nothing to do with it. And yet we have a document that they've found, and her signature's on it. I've seen it. And, it looks like she knew all about it. Would Hillary lie to us, do you think?
Oh, shock. Breaking news. Would Hillary lie? Wow. I can't answer that question with a straight face even.
Well, she's an accomplished liar, so we know. Let's see. Didn't the Bible tell us that something about Satan being a liar and a murderer from the beginning? And the body count on the Clintons keeps rising all the time, even now. So it does make you wonder And they had McCabe, I guess, before Congress. He kind of forgot, I guess, a lot of stuff. His memory's poor. And the answers he gave, from what I gathered, conflicted with what other people have said. And yet, you know what? They're all walking around. None of them, any of them, have ever been arrested, detained, or behind bars. So,
well, does that possibly say to the American people that Washington, D.C. cannot enforce itself, it cannot investigate itself, it cannot clean itself up?
Sort of. The way Washington is now, like you say, if it's broke at the top, you can't fix it. It seems to me that this is very much broke at the top, and they seem very, very reluctant to really do anything, especially Sessions has more or less come out and said he's not going to prosecute anybody. And yet he's still in office. He's still there. So I guess that makes you wonder exactly what are we watching here? And exactly who is Donald Trump? I mean, obviously he's God's man of the hour. Obviously God has appointed him to not only preside maybe over the temple and over there in Israel, because I know the rabbis are now saying, well, next comes the temple, and that would be a huge, huge prophetic situation. Have you heard anything out of Israel, by the way, from any of the people you know over there? Anything going on that tends towards, how do we say, instability and war?
Oh, absolutely. We're continually hearing about Israel being in a mode of war as we speak. I mean, they have deployed. They called it drills, but they have deployed all over their country, and orders have come out to even some U.S. embassy people, to shelter, and there's a lot of Americans being told to shelter in Israel. I would dare say that apparently the U.S., even though they're not using a smoke screen to cover it up, and they're not talking about it in our news media, but the U.S. and Saudi Arabia and Israel, they're pretty well knowledgeable of the fact war is coming. They're not fooled by this rhetoric, especially the 8 years of Obama baloney. They're just not fooled by it, and they know war is coming. And, of course, the other side also knows the war is coming because they're braining it. So, there is a lot of information coming out of the Middle East, but mainstream media in America, they're just too full of it. I mean, absolutely too full. They really need some type of cleaning out. I've never seen a media that is so communistic and socialist and nothing but total propaganda 24/7 in my life. I wouldn't watch a minute of it.
Yeah, and what's amazing is a lot of the people, well, of course, they've been infiltrated our school systems. And what was it? Who said it? Stalin or one of his propaganda people. Give me a generation of your children, and I'll win. And they've infiltrated the schools. And they hate America, these college kids. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, what's interesting, I don't know if you've heard the latest, but now the colleges, and this is pretty weird, but they're actually demanding in a lot of the universities and colleges a Christmas-free zone. And, when that comes out, I know a lot of people think about Christmas as Santa Claus, but are you really telling me that they are offended by Santa Claus, or is it that they are offended in an association with Christ's name being in Christmas?
Yep, that's exactly what it is. They hate Jesus Christ. They hate God the Father. They hate the Holy Ghost. And they will have none of it. And eventually, of course, the Lord gets sick of the whole thing, as Psalm 2 says, and he will hold them in derision and vex them with greatly during the tribulation period. not wise actually to smart off to your Creator. I don't think that's a smart move, but they don't even believe, I guess, that there is a Creator. They certainly don't believe in God the Father or Jesus Christ. They've been taught that's all garbage. And
yeah, but
this is, go ahead.
I'm just going to mention, you're talking about they may not believe it, but let me assure you, they're waging an incredible-sized war against the Creator and His anointed, like Psalms 2 says. That's an awful big war against somebody that doesn't exist.
They do contradict themselves. They really do. It's like an atheist doesn't believe in anything. No God of any kind. Actually, he does. There is no such thing as an atheist in reality because they believe in chance. Chance is their God. And everything happens just by chance, so that's their God. And it's amazing how much they contradict themselves. Here are some of the things, though, that in 2017 I'd like your comment on as to where we're headed. Coup in Saudi Arabia. These are some of the more important items that have occurred. North Korea ICBM launches and nuke explosions. China leaves the door open to regime changes in North Korea. The rise of the cryptocurrency. That's very interesting because it's a move towards the mark of the beast. It's all digital. Letter from the Sanhedrin to Trump and Putin asking for the third temple to be built. Temple Mount police take over the temple for a short time. I don't know if they still are. First time in 70 years. Trump, Jerusalem, capital of Israel. UN votes to do away with Jerusalem as capital of Israel, Psalm 83 and Zechariah. Anything you would like to add to that for 2017? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that is really prophetically fulfilling.
Yeah, I would add on that the sudden emergence of Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince, possibly to the kingship of Saudi Arabia, and his already busy dealings with taking down a coup within his own country, and also the beginnings that started a few days ago of him rounding up and putting into custody the Arab bank billionaires that lend the money to the Palestinians to keep them going, and a lot of the Arabs. Salman has begun to rounding those billionaires up that run that big bank. So there's a major move in Saudi Arabia, and this is focusing on the Palestinians and Abbas, who doesn't want to talk about a treaty, but Salman is pushing the issue beyond anyone ever has before.
Yeah, and that's going to be, if he can pull that off, I know Kushner and the rest of them, the Palestinians said they're not even going to negotiate with him anymore, not even going to talk to him anymore because of what Trump did. Of course, that's maybe for public consumption, and maybe privately the channels are still open. Who knows exactly what's going on. Why this UFO disclosure now that's even been on Fox News? Here's what somebody said about it. So why the pseudo UFO disclosure now? There are no coincidences. The military has been fully aware of UFO visitors for over 80 years. So do you think this is part of the acclimation project because they think an arrival is coming very, very soon?
Well, from what I'm gleaning from a lot of people that seem to have knowledge of this activity is the fact that they're calling it, Stuart, they're calling it a term called soft disclosure, that they say the insiders are giving a soft disclosure because an arrival is very, very close.
Oh, very, very interesting. And that, Noah has made mention of the fact. She said there will not be a disclosure. So it's going to be very interesting. She said the government will not do it, but the UFO aliens, fallen angels, will do it for us. It's very, very interesting how she words it. But here are some of the headlines. I think these are all from Drudge. Stunning Area 51 worker says he even piloted UFOs. That's that backwards engineering project. Ex-Navy pilot describes close encounter. Navy pilot reveals an encounter with a Tic-Tac UFO. Secret UFO Pentagon program explained. A secret Pentagon UFO program spent millions. Pentagon secret search for UFOs. 2 Navy flyers revealed chasing an incredible object, etc., etc., etc. What do you think? That sounds like acclamation, getting everybody ready. So, like you said, when it comes, it won't be such a shock.
Yeah, and actually what's interesting, too, is they're talking about off of South America, too. Most recently, they've been making some type of contact with some kind of strange figures. I don't know what you call them. They say they're strange figures in the Mazaredo Bay in the Argentina area, and they're communicating with something from the sea, and they're linking this in a little bit with possibly something that has escaped from Antarctica.
Oh, really? That's interesting. We don't have much more time, but I did want to maybe close with this one. Earth changes. A mysterious blob of hot rock is building up under America's northeast. Something is rising from the depths. A vast mass of hot rock is welling up underneath Vermont and also Massachusetts, and obviously then New Hampshire would be part of this. What do you think? Because remember No Eyes and what she had to say? That places that never knew about volcanic operations suddenly would be faced with volcanic activity that would never have been thought of before. And we do have volcanoes going off. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, not only that, Stuart, there are also volcanic lava rocks washing up on the northwest coast of America. And at the same time, we've had the first that I know of that I've ever posted, earthquake in the Gulf of Mexico off the tip of Texas. And that's one of the things Standale warned about.
That's right. He said when you start to see earthquakes in the Gulf, that's the beginning of the split. Well, of course, we've got the split over there in Israel. Well, I can't say a lot, but some people have had visions where the Lord has told them that if we go to a 2-state solution and we split everything over there, the Lord is going to split us right in two. And you had a kind of a vision about when it happened. It was just almost instantaneously, if I remember right. Is that true?
Yeah, and what's interesting too, remember the old 10.5 Apocalypse movie years ago that it was a split and it actually went down to the Gulf of Mexico.
That's right. It did. Maybe they know more than they're telling anybody. This thing is accelerating, folks. We're heading in. 2018, once we get there, we're in the final pivot year. Even for Israel as a nation, will reach its 70th year. So this is going to get really, really interesting. And anyway, we'll pick this up on Friday and get into a lot more depth into it. Thanks again, Larry, for coming on board. Any final quick comment? We got about 15 seconds.
People just need to be aware. We're approaching Christmas and then New Year's, and we just need to be aware and stay keep that seatbelt fastened.
Yeah, good advice. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you on Friday, the Lord willing.